Hello, and so the Kickstarter for the Advanced Fighting Fantasy board game Dark Dungeons is finally live. Went live last night. It's approaching half funded already, so it's made a really good start, but we need just to keep that momentum going. And so I thought I'd quickly talk to you about the board game if you're not familiar with it. And I know I've done some videos and some little teasers and all sorts. So this is a dungeon delving board game. It is a tile-based game. So we have various dungeon tiles here. Got a corridor, a corner, as you can see, a room, another room. Some rooms have locks and some rooms have secret doors. There we go. And the aim of the game depends really on whether you're playing it as a solo game, in which case your main aim is to defeat the dungeon boss. If you're playing it as a collaborative game, your aim is also to beat the boss, but you're doing that now as a team. If you're playing it as a competitive game, your aim is to get as much treasure as you can. But it has to be said that beating the boss is a good way of getting lots of treasure easily. Admittedly, it's not very easy to beat them, but once you beat them, it's easy to get the treasure. So we've got tile based, and we build these tiles up into a dungeon. Now, the real benefit of that is if you draw this one first and then this one, then you've got a corridor and a secret room. If you draw this one first, you've got a room, and then this one, you've got a crossroads, albeit one bit is blocked by some rubble. If you draw this one first and then this one, then you've got two corridors. So the dungeon will be utterly different every single time you play. And that's really important because the replayability of this game is one of the key goals when we designed it. So into that dungeon go your heroes. There are going to be 8 different heroes in the game. Not all of these are illustrated yet. So we've got a dwarf, we've got an elf, we've got a mercenary, we've got a knight, we've got a wizard, we've got a warrior mage, we've got a priest, and we've got a rogue. All of these play differently. The rogue is really good at sneaking around, stealing from monsters. The mercenary is good at walloping monsters. The knight is good at being hit, not taking any damage. The dwarf is good at getting through rockfalls and carrying loads of stuff. The elf can shoot enemies. The wizard, the priest, the warrior mage, they have spells. So they all play in different ways. And because there's 8 of those, it means that every game you play, again, has different permutations of how it will look. We've got different dungeon conditions. So the dungeon might be well lit or it might be gloomy. If it's well lit, it makes it harder to sneak, but it makes it easier to run. If it's gloomy, it makes it easier to sneak, but harder to run. So you've got different types of dungeon. You've got different abilities. So every character has a talent card, an ability card. So they're better at certain things. And because, again, those are randomized by game, it means that they are different every time. We've got a whole pack of spells. Again, not all of these are illustrated at the moment, so I'll try and show you illustrated ones because they look nicer. So we've got some spells there. And the spells are also randomized. So if you're a wizard in one game, you will have one set of spells. If you're a wizard in another game, you could have a completely and utterly different set of spells. And that means that the way the game plays, the way the game feels, the way it works out will be very different every time, even if you are the wizard both times. And indeed, even if you're the wizard, say you learn it both times, it plays differently because you've got different spells. So we've got then a big pack of adventure cards. You can see how thick that pack is, and actually not all of them are in there. The final game will have slightly more. And there are loads and loads and loads. Indeed, there are so many that if you play through the whole game and explore every room that you can possibly find, you cannot find all of the adventure cards in that one dungeon. There are more adventure cards than you can draw in a single dungeon. that also adds the replayability, because it means you could actually play nearly 3 games, I think, with the cards that are there without shuffling the used ones back in. And that means you've got effectively 3 different games that you can play, because the monsters are going to be different, the enemies are different, the rooms are different. And indeed, not all those cards are monsters. You've got empty rooms. Is there a trap there? Well, maybe. You've got chests. You've got strange fountains and idols and altars and other weirdness going on. And some of those cards, whether it be a monster or chest, will allow you to draw a treasure. And again, you've got a big pack of treasure cards, and you've got more treasure cards than you can possibly draw in a single game. So the dungeon's random, the heroes are random, the spells are random, the abilities are random, the type of dungeon's random, the treasures are random. Here you can see some treasures, including, it has to be said, some cheese. And because all of this is completely different, it means that if you play it again and again and again, either as a solo player, a competitive, collaborative, every time will feel different. And indeed, for the solo mode, the normal target is to defeat the boss. But actually, in the rulebook will be some other options. So yes, you might have to defeat the boss, or you might have to explore so many cards, tiles, or you might have to draw so many adventure cards, or you might have to collect enough treasures. And so each of these will play differently, because if you're the wizard with lots of exploring spells, it makes exploring the dungeon easier than if you've got lots of combat spells, unless you find lots of rooms with monsters you have to fight, in which case the spells then help you. Equally, the dwarf might be good at exploring so he can get through rock falls quickly, whereas the rogue might be good because he can get past enemies quickly, whereas etc. etc. So we've very much gone for ease of play. It takes about 10 minutes to set up, an hour or so to play, another 5 minutes to put it all away. Really quick to learn. This is easily playable by small children, and it's easily playable by families, even non-board gamer families. So if you're familiar with the Fighting Fantasy system, skill, stamina, luck, you will of course breeze through this with no problems. But even if you're not, you can pick this up really, 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 really quickly. You can play in an hour. And there is another benefit of that, going back to the game books. With the game books, if you failed, the idea was you took your map and you started again. Now, you obviously can't keep your map in this. But if you play through in an hour game and you failed to beat the boss as a cooperative game, play again, because you can get another game in another hour. Maybe you'll do it that time. Different dungeon layout, different boss, different dungeon condition, different characters, different spells, different abilities, different, completely different setup, but you're playing again with what is on the table in front of you. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea. I'm going to try and do a few more videos later on. If you have any questions, any ideas of anything specific you'd like me to talk about, do please let me know. Thank you very much.